Was Shakespeare just tripping on edibles when he wrote Hamlet? Is the Vatican hiding a weed gospel written on hemp paper? Can you actually smoke someone's ashes like Tupac's crew claimed? And what if Bob Marley's grave is still smoking? These are 20 totally insane, occasionally true, sometimes suspiciously convenient facts about weed. Some of them are very real. Others, well, who knows? Whether you're a stoner, a skeptic, or just weed curious, you're about to get a contact high of WTF level knowledge. So let's light this up. Drug-fueled wrestling, oiled-up athletes, and cannabis-infused training rituals. The ancient Olympics weren't sober. Ancient Greek athletes used cannabis to treat sore muscles and calm pre-game nerves. It was rubbed on as oil, brewed into tea, and sometimes smoked. Painkillers, herbs, and natural stimulants were part of every serious competitor's prep. Some fighters even combined cannabis with wine and opium. There were no drug rules, no bans, just glory. The goal was to win or die trying. Cannabis helped dull broken bones and bloody wounds between matches. Champions didn't eat clean. They took anything that worked. In the ancient games, getting high wasn't cheating. It was strategy. The U.S. military created a super THC compound so strong it could drop a soldier where he stood. It was called, and I hope I say this right, dimethylheptylpyrin. We'll just call it DMHP. One dose lasted up to 39 hours. It caused full-body weakness, dizziness, and total disorientation. Soldiers couldn't walk, talk, or sometimes even stand. The military wanted to use it for crowd control. Some documents suggest they considered using it on enemies and civilians. The effects were unpredictable. Heart rate dropped, blood pressure crashed, test subjects sometimes collapsed and stayed down for hours. It was shelved because of health risks, but not before full testing. This happened at the Edgewood Arsenal in Maryland as part of, and I'm not kidding here, Project Dork. The project faced public backlash and they buried the research in the 1970s, quietly shutting down the entire program after testing it on troops under a top-secret contract. Government labs created an ultra-potent weaponized weed. It wasn't a joke. It was chemical warfare in a joint. Hamlet's ghost might not be spiritual. It might be hallucination. Pipes with cannabis residue were dug up near Shakespeare's garden. They weren't empty. Chemical traces match modern weed. Some historians believe he used cannabis while writing. Others claim he was part of a secret group of stoner poets, including Marlowe and Ben Jonson, who smoked to summon creative visions. In Sonnet 76, he writes about noted weed. Literary scholars still argue about whether that meant literal grass or metaphor. But the pipes were real. The theory goes deeper. These writers weren't just high, they used weed like a ritual, channeling characters, spirits, and entire plays out of smoke. Some say ancient Christian scrolls were written on weed and then erased from history. Early religious texts were copied onto hemp paper, but that wasn't rare. Hemp was everywhere. But there's a theory that some of those writings promoted cannabis as a spiritual aid. People believe these scrolls describe visions, divine euphoria, and plant-based rituals. Hemp paper degraded. Some scrolls vanished, others were burned during centuries of church crackdowns on heretical teachings. The theory says cannabis was too closely tied to pagan rites and mystical experiences. Church leaders destroyed it all to control doctrine. Today, there's no physical proof, just missing manuscripts and scattered mentions in banned texts. That's all it takes to feed a legend. Pac didn't just inspire hip-hop, he became weed. After Tupac's murder in 1996, his crew, the Outlaws, said they honored him by mixing his ashes into a joint. They called it a send-off for a king. They said they smoked it at the beach, played his music, and passed him around one last time. People didn't believe it. Then they doubled down in interviews. They were not joking. This was a ritual. They said Pac would have approved. No one knows if it really happened, but the myth refuses to die. It's one of the most insane posthumous tributes in music history. A man turned into smoke and lived on through lungs. Tourists say the air near Bob Marley's tomb smells like weed, years after his death. Bob Marley was buried in 1981 with a soccer ball, his favorite guitar, and a nug of cannabis. Since then, stories have spread of a strange scent surrounding his mausoleum. Visitors describe catching faint whiffs of smoke drifting through the air. Security guards brush it off as incense. Locals say it's something else. Some even claim to feel high after standing there too long. No one has tested the air. No one wants to. The grave has become a holy site for weed culture. The man's body's gone, but the chronic might still be burning. Washington planted hemp. Obama ran a weed club. Willie Nelson lit up on the White House roof. George Washington kept hemp fields. He wrote about separating the female plants for better resin. Barack Obama joined a group called the Choom Gang and invented smoking tricks like roof hits. Willie Nelson smoked a joint on the White House roof with Jimmy Carter's son. Legal or not, cannabis has always been in the halls of power. Some people believe the Oval Office has hidden ventilation to filter out smoke. Others say past presidents got high inside the building itself. The stories haven't stopped, neither has the smoke. Some travelers said North Korea was a stoner's dream. They almost died for it. For years, blogs claimed cannabis was legal in North Korea. Tourists said they bought it at markets and smoked it freely. Stories spread fast. None were true. In reality, North Korea treats marijuana like heroin. Being caught with it can mean life in prison. Some cases ended with public executions. Propaganda sites kept pushing the myth, and people believed it. Some tried to bring weed into the country. They vanished. The internet kept reposting the same lie while travelers disappeared for breaking one of the world's strictest drug laws. One blunt could be a death sentence. In Japan, 1 gram of weed costs more than a gram of gold. Cannabis in Japan can reach $32 a gram. In Ecuador, it's $1.34. That's not a pricing error, it's the global weed gap. Countries with strict drug laws have sky-high prices. In places where it's decriminalized or legal, it's dirt cheap. Experts say that if weed became federally legal in the U.S., it could generate more revenue than the entire organic food industry. Black markets would collapse, corporations would move in, global cartels would lose power overnight. The economy would shift, all that from a plant. But something keeps blocking legalization, something bigger than politics. Cannabis wasn't banned because of science. It was banned because of money. In the 1930s, weed was called a threat to society. Newspapers called it murder weed. But cannabis was already used in medicine. It worked for pain and nausea and appetite. Then it vanished. Henry Anslinger launched a nationwide campaign linking it to violence and insanity. Behind the scenes, lobbyists protected paper, alcohol, pharmaceuticals, and the cotton industry. Weed threatened profits. It didn't get outlawed, it got erased. Today, the same industries that fought it still fund anti-legalization campaigns. This wasn't about health, it was about control. Archaeologists found weed in ancient tombs next to gold, jewels, and mummified kings. Traces of cannabis were found in the tomb of Ramses II. Priests used it in rituals to enter trance states and speak to gods. They didn't whisper prayers, they lit incense, inhale smoke, and summon visions. Cannabis oil was applied to skin before ceremony. Some scholars believe it was part of embalming rituals. The elite were buried with it to stay high in the afterlife. These were not farmers, these were rulers. They surrounded themselves with weed like it was divine. In ancient Egypt, getting high wasn't rebellion, it was sacred. The most iconic weed number shares a birthday with a dictator and maybe the end of the world. In the 1970s, a group of students in San Rafael used 420 as a secret code for smoking weed. They searched for a hidden grow field after school at 4:20 p.m. The term caught on and spread through Grateful Dead concerts, High Times magazine, and into global stoner culture. April 20th became the unofficial cannabis holiday. It also happens to be Hitler's birthday, and according to French theorists, a hidden glyph in the Mayan calendar. Some believe 420 is a cosmic echo, an inevitable date, looped through time, linked to rebellion, rituals, and revolution. A retired waitress started baking pot brownies for dying patients. The cops tried to stop her. They failed. Mary Jane Rathbun, also known as Brownie Mary, became a cannabis legend in 1980 San Francisco. She baked hundreds of weed-infused brownies for AIDS patients, delivering them in hospital wards and underground clinics. She was arrested multiple times. She didn't care. Doctors backed her. The patients lived longer. They ate again. They smiled. Mary kept baking until she died in 1999. Her activism helped push California to legalize medical marijuana. Some say the slang Mary Jane comes from her. She didn't invent weed. She turned it into medicine with an oven mitt. The U.S. government has been growing weed for decades and mailing joints to patients in metal tins. Since 1968, a government-run cannabis grow has operated out of the University of Mississippi. In the 1970s, a man with glaucoma sued for access and won. The result was a federal program that supplied weed to a handful of patients through the mail. They received metal tins stuffed with 300 joints each month. The program stayed active while thousands were arrested nationwide for possession. Only a few patients were ever accepted. A couple still get deliveries. The same government that declared war on weed was rolling it, packing it, and shipping it first class. Alexa already knows when you're high. The next upgrade might shut off your lighter. Artificial intelligence can detect changes in voice, movement, and facial expressions.
It might rain in Aliquippa tomorrow.
Research labs are already training AI to recognize signs of intoxication. In future workplaces, automated systems could track productivity and flag weed use. Some companies already use machine learning tools for drug monitoring. Meanwhile, cannabis farms are using AI to engineer stronger strains. In a full dystopian loop, robots could build weed more efficiently and ban it at the same time. The same tech that grows it might be the thing that wipes it out. The next war on drugs could be algorithmic. The internet's first sale wasn't a book or a game, it was a bag of weed. In 1971, a Stanford student used ARPANET, the early version of the internet, to arrange a weed deal with someone at MIT. The computer used cost millions. The weed probably didn't. No money was transferred online, just messages. But it was the first recorded digital drug transaction. It happened long before online shopping or encrypted markets. That makes weed the original blueprint for e-commerce. Long before Amazon, stoners were already using computers to move product. The internet didn't start with science or education. It started with someone trying to get high. One edible won't kill you, but it might launch you into an alternate dimension. When THC goes through your liver, it turns into 11-hydroxy-THC. This compound hits harder and lasts longer. That's why edibles creep up slowly and then explode. The effects can last 6 hours or more. People have reported hallucinations, extreme paranoia, or losing all sense of time. Edibles have triggered ER visits, panic attacks, and full meltdowns from one wrong dose. Most people just melt into a couch and forget how to use a spoon. This isn't just getting high. It's temporary ego death in candy form. One brownie can turn a movie night into an existential crisis. Some stoners smoke so much their bodies start violently rejecting weed forever. Cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome causes nonstop vomiting, dehydration, and stomach pain in heavy users. The only known relief comes from taking long, scalding showers. People have actually burned their skin trying to stop the nausea. Doctors misdiagnosed it for years. Patients kept smoking, thinking weed was helping, but it made it worse. Some puked every day for months. Their tolerance was sky high, but their bodies gave out. The condition mostly affects daily users over time. It's rare, but once it starts, it's hard to stop. The plant that relaxed them suddenly turned on them like a bad trip with a grudge. Hospitals thought newborns were born stoned. Turns out it was the baby shampoo. In multiple U.S. hospitals, babies tested positive for THC hours after birth. Parents faced accusations. CPS got involved. Investigations started. Then scientists found the real cause. Some brands of baby soap triggered false positives on standard drug tests. The chemicals interfered with test antibody reactions. No THC was in the soap, but the results showed up anyway. Families nearly lost custody. Parents were interrogated, all because of Johnson & Johnson and the bottle of lavender-scented wash. Labs now use updated testing methods, but for a while, innocent babies were labeled high because of bubble baths. Scientists found cocaine, weed, and caffeine floating in the Roman skyline, and that's just the air. Italian researchers tested air samples across multiple cities. They found cocaine in every one. The highest concentrations were over Rome and Naples. The same clouds carried weed particles, nicotine, and trace amphetamines. The drugs were not being smoked near the equipment, they were in the air, floating invisible over public streets. The study shocked city officials. It confirmed what party-goers already knew. Even the atmosphere in Italy gets high. Public health experts said the doses were too low to affect people, but if you live in downtown Rome, you're microdosing every time you inhale. No club required. Thanks for watching Nutty Productions. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. What's your favorite weed fact? Let me know below. See you next time.